Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Yeshephataya, Yahaya for Yasha'Allah. Episode 3, Yahweh and Yahweh shall not divide. All still in effect, baby. About to get it in. Let's get into it. Alright, so these devils, all people trying to get these devils in the kingdom, man. Trying to, oh, God love everybody and all that. I just broke all that down in my John 3:16 class. Now we about to go to the so-called white man. He the Edomites, man. They the Edomites. So even if our people talking about, oh, and first books we going into, King James Version Bible, Apocrypha, the Zonderville Bible Dictionary. Can you see? The Roman Empire, the kingdom of the Edomites, man. Who them people is on that picture right there? Come on, man. These people, man, know who they is, man. They know who they is. It's so many ways I can break down who these people is. I'm just giving you one aspect. Brothers got it's a lot of truth circulating around. It's just my version of it. I ain't saying it's the only version. It's just my version of just breakdown. You know what I mean? And it's something basic right here that I put together. We're gonna start off at Edom. But that's the main one our people be defending, is the so-called white man. Brothers too. That's the main one. Because he give them a job, you know what I mean? And make them feel like they being a part of this kingdom. Our people thinking they moving on up. Man, we doing the same stuff we been doing since the 30s, man. Shucking and jiving and cooning, man. And selling out. Ain't nothing changed, man. Ain't no moving on up. Only thing different is the technology a little better. You gotta buy it. Even then, it's how you look at it, even better. I don't know. Life might be better when it's simple, without cell phones and all that. So, just say we got different stuff. That's all. Different times. Let's go to Edom. It say, Edomites. Edomites red. Who the red man on the planet, man? The so-called white man. He the only one that's red, man. When they get mad, you ever see Trump doing an interview? They get mad, man. They turn red. These people turn red. You can see the blood through their skin. It say the nation and its people who were the descendants of Esau. I still ain't do that yet. It say who's the descendants of Esau. He founded the country, so his name is equated with Edom. The country was called Seir, or Mount Seir, which was the name of the territory in which the Edomites lived. Peoples come from the mountains, man. These cave dwellers, man, we follow. That's ruling over. The Most High put over. These cave dwellers, man. The country was called Seir, or Mount Seir, which was the name of the territory in which the Edomites lived. Now let's see, since our people talking about the Edomites can get salvation, this, that, and the third. Now we about to see if that's true. It say Edom figures prominently in the prophetic scriptures as the scene of the great future judgment. She is the only neighbor of the Israelites who was not given any promise or mercy from God. Because when you go in the book of Obadiah, it tell you, man, after they finish cleaning this planet up, the Most High going, yeah, soul for him. Might see him in a museum or something, I don't know. So, Edom, right? They the Edomites. What that say? The Roman Empire, the empire of the Edomites, man. Who that look like? Fake carrying the manure and all that. Come on, man. Some fake Jews, man. Come on, man. The gig is up. Come on, man. We don't come, the real Jews don't come from no mountains, man. They the people of the sun. The Hebrew Israelites is the people of the sun. Now we about to see who he is. Because people think, oh, because we dark skinned, we all the Africans. The Chinese and the Japanese ain't the same. So how us and the Africans the same people? That don't even make sense right there that all of us the same people like that. Then I'm about to go to Ham. Since we supposed to be the Africans. Yeah, we the ones who built the pyramids, but we wasn't Africans though. You know what I mean? We the Hebrew Israelites, man, the Negroes, man. That's why nobody can't do nothing better than us on earth. Because we the chosen people. We the Hebrew Israelites, man. When you walk in that room, you get up and you go out, you a fly dude, whatever. When you go in that room, and it's a room full of women and all that, who you gonna choose? You gonna choose the best looking one to your eyes. That's the same thing the Most High God did, right? Because he knew what we can do. We can't nobody beat us in anything, man. In nothing. And we done invented everything in this kingdom. Even the toilet seat, the toilet bowl. So, our people can keep playing, shuckle, bucking, cooning, ass kissing, boot licking, stepping, fetching, sell out. You can do all that all you want. Most High gonna punish this earth, man, and you gonna get caught up with these devils. Let's go to Ham. Because the Africans, their original nationality is called Ham. African is the name of a white man. Leo Scipio Africanus. A Roman general or a Roman explorer. Come on, man. Our people need to listen to what the Israelites, the brothers out there teaching, bringing out, and go back and study it. Even if you don't take it as the gospel, what they saying, go back and research what they saying. Because they out there telling y'all the truth, man. And time dwindling down. That hourglass with that sand coming down is getting low. Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood. And one of 8 persons that lived through the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Libyans, and Canaanites, man. It said not the Negroes, man. So that means the Negroes is a totally different species, man, than the other dark races, man. We something different. And the white scholars, the one who wrote this book, and they know. They know who he is, man. That's why they need us. That's why when we built Black Wall Street, they bombed that junk. So we'll be back needing them again. You know what I mean? Because we advanced so fast and caught up so fast and was doing so good, these devils got to hating. And they need us. So if we don't need them, we ain't going to be really doing nothing for them like how they need us to be. Because I keep telling brothers, these devils is dumb, man. Esau not smarter than me. I don't care how much money he got and what he got, his military and all that. Man, these devils is dumb, man. I ain't giving them no credit, man. Prove you get out the firmament and going into space, man. I kiss the ground you walk on. Prove you actually sending a probe to Mars. Prove your vaccines actually work. You can't. How in the hell they got satellites up there beaming the signal down? But when I'm over southeast down in the valley, the signal, I barely can get a signal. Barely can get a signal, man. Bars low. If the signal beaming down, you should keep a signal. So how is they beaming pictures back millions of miles away, beaming it back? And the pictures coming back all, come on, man. People got to stop falling for this Ponzi scheme, man. NASA getting big tax money off this Ponzi scheme, man. Just like them fake Jews getting big money off their Ponzi scheme. Late night infomercials. They got a joint now where they begging for money for the people in Israel, showing them broke down and bummy and all that. But they got all the money, the fake Jews. Talking about send $25 for meals, for Passover and all that. They still eating off of that stuff. They still living off of that. Our people need to wake up, man. This Ponzi scheme been going on too long, man. With they signs, everything, man. It's a sad thing. But you know, we ain't want to keep the commandments. So we paying for it. We got cave animals ruling over us that got a kingdom that's all lies damn near, man. Yeah, they gonna be truthful about stupid shit, cough medicine and dumb stuff, man. They gotta be truthful about stuff they gonna know they gonna need. Oh, man. Time, man. Let's dive in. Revelations 21. This class ain't gonna take long, so I had to, slow it down some. Revelations 21:1. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Okay, seeing a new heaven, new earth, and all that. Let's go to Isaiah 24:20. The book of Isaiah 24:20. The earth shall reel, the book Isaiah 24:20. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard, and shall be removed like a cottage, and the transgression thereof shall be heavy upon it, and it shall fall and not rise again. Revelation 18:10. I did this class a while back. Revelation 18:10. Standing afar off, okay, it's talking about, I know why it's getting into that. Okay, so Revelation 21:1 and 2 saying there's going to be a new heaven and a new earth. What John said he's saying. There's other precepts with John seeing some vicious stuff going down. Um, okay. So it's saying the earth gonna be real to and fro like a drunkard. How the earth gonna be real to and fro like a drunkard? Nuclear weapons, man. Nuclear weapons. That's how it's gonna be real to and fro like a drunkard, like it's stabbing. It's gonna wobble. It's gonna shake. You know what I mean? Revelations 18:10. Standing far off from the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for 1 hour is thy judgment come. All it's gonna take is 1 hour to destroy this junk, man. All them junks gonna hit this junk. Cause in order to set up a righteous kingdom that's gonna last forever, this wicked kingdom gotta fall down first. It ain't gonna magically fall down, because the so-called white man not gonna give his kingdom up. He not gonna give it up. The Most High setting them up to bring them down, so he can exalt himself and show you that he the God that made the heavens and the earth. You know what I mean? How he gonna show you he the God of the heavens and the earth if the white man just magically, just some kind of way, just lose this kingdom, and people don't get to witness the glory of Yahweh, man? It's gonna happen. You gonna see the glory of Yahweh, man. Cause these devils so wicked, people really thinking they man. The Most High gonna let them destroy his earth. All these animals going extinct, the water poison, the coral reefs that dying. You got birds dropping out the sky. Everything dying on the earth. Even our black ass. If we, you know what I mean? Chemtrails, GMOs. Oh man, this place is done, man. It's done. It ain't no, they be talking about if we do this now, we can reverse it. Ain't no reversal. This earth already set for destruction, man. So what the Most High gonna do? He gonna bring this rulership down, and he gonna set the Israelites back up. Cause that's who he made the earth for, the Israelites. Everybody else is just extras. Like if this is a movie, the Israelites is the stars of the movie, and everybody else just extras in the movie. Let's go to let's prove it. Revelations 13:9. I said he gonna bring his kingdom down. Book of Revelation, chapter 13, verse 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth in the captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. So, didn't them devils bring us in captivity? Didn't Columbus and them come over here and enslave the Native Americans, which was Negroes too, basically? You know what I mean? Didn't he do that? Yeah, it's a whoever leadeth in the captivity shall go into captivity. So that's why I said this kingdom not gonna magically just the white man just going like he lost his touch and he ain't got the power to be wicked no more. And nah, it say the earth is be given into the hands of the wicked. He ruling the whole earth right now, damn near, basically. You know what I mean? But this scripture right here tell you the Most High gonna put their ass in chains. They building all these underground bunkers and all this stuff. They not gonna get this kingdom up. The Israelites gonna have to go dig all that stuff up when we get our new bodies and all that. When we come off them chariots, or I'm gonna say whoever make it to be one of the elect. You know what I mean? Whoever the elect is, when they get them new bodies, they coming off them chariots as fierce warriors like superheroes, man. And it ain't gonna be no comprehension for how they gonna be this, what type of power they gonna have. You know what I mean? Cause you going and change Esau and the other nations. Don't think you're getting away with anything, because you're not getting away with nothing. Let's go to Book of Psalms, chapter 2. The Book of Psalms, chapter 2, verse 8. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Hold up. Let's go back to Revelations. Didn't I just say that? The Most High gonna ride on these people's mind? Revelations 13, 9 and 10. If any man have an ear, let him hear. Meaning, if any man can get understanding, who understand, get this understanding. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. He is the patience and the faith of the saints. The Book of Psalms, chapter 2, verse 8. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Hold up. Let me jump up to 7. I will declare the decree. The Lord have said. Hold on. Let's go up to 6. It say, yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. Talking about setting up Christ over the Israelites. I will declare the decree. The Lord have said unto me, thou art my son. This day I have begotten thee. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings, be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Man, we the real judges of this earth, man. We the real judges of this earth. Oh, nah, Judge Judy, she the real judge of this earth. O ye kings, be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Nah, Judge Joe Brown and who else? Judge Wapner from they the judges of this earth. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings, be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Nah, the police and the FBI and the CIA, they the real judges of the earth. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings, be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Man, the Israelites the real judges of the earth, man. We just got taken out of power because we ain't want to keep no commandments. Like niggas love being wicked now. Just like your kids, when they mess up, what you do? You ship their ass down the country, down their aunt house. You send them over their cousin house. You get their ass out the house. That's what happened to us. We lost our spot.
Curses, boy.
Look how you treating your bitch. Look how you
Curses.
Look how you treating your bitch. Exactly. And I ain't trying
Curses,
to
baby.
because you fucking with niggas with your dumb ass. It was just niggas in here for. Stupid ass. I let you down. You let a dumb bitch. You let a dumb bitch. Right now, my cousin. I ain't never fucked my cousin. You mad because I wouldn't fuck your dirty ass. Oh my God, stop. Yeah, that's your ass. I ain't gonna you. Fuck you talking about.
Curses.
And she said, you know this my motherfucking block. Curses.
Don't work at FedEx when my cousin got your dirty, dusty ass job at. And I got him.
Curses. Curses. Curses heavy. Curses. 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 Curses heavy, y'all. This joint, boy. Shalom.
Welcome to Real Black Consciousness Forum Podcast. This is Big VJ checking in. Today's conversation, we're going to talk about an American creation. We're going to talk about how 3 wicked groups got together and in their laboratory of America, which is the inner cities, they created a being, a personality, a mentality that never existed on the planet before, right? In today's conversation, beloved, we're going to talk about how the American nigga was made. What was his purpose? What is the goal? What is the future? Not for Black Americans. Not for the American Negro in general. What is the future for the American nigga, right? And how do you properly maintain a good nigga, right? You know, beloved, I was listening to a comedian out of Philadelphia. His name is Michael Blackson. He was being interviewed, right? And during the interview, he started talking about the process of having more children. And Michael Blackson, even though he's from Philadelphia, he's from the Black continent originally, right? He's from Africa. So he was talking about having more children. And then he said, you know, I'm not interested in having any more children in America, right? Because he said there's something in the air. When kids are born in America, he was kind of like shaking his head in disgust. He was trying to look around and feel around to find the right words to say, right? But he was just like, I just can't do it. It's something in the air that makes these American kids, they're different, they're disobedient. He just kind of couldn't put his finger on it. And the interviewer kind of tried to help him along and say, well, look, you did all this to become an American. And he was just like, nah, you know, there's just something up with it's different than Africa. He started to make a comparison. He was like, the children that's born in the Americas and the ones that's born in Africa is different. They have more structure, more discipline, not only by their parents, but by the community in which they live in, right?
And how many more kids do you plan on having?
I'm not trying to have them, you know.
But the way things are going on in America, I really don't know if I want kids in America.
Well, you just became a citizen.
Yeah, I mean, I want American kids. You know, American kids are just, it's just something in this air that's, as soon as they come out the womb in the air, they just turn really bad.
So what?
So I don't know what.
But what do you mean by that? Like, as far as American kids, that they just turn out bad? Like go through that. Explain that a little better, because that sounds just like, okay, you waited for 30-something years to become American, and now you're saying that you don't want American kids.
I said, where I'm from, we are disciplined from an early age. And not just your parent discipline you, just your whole environment. You know, so kids coming from Africa, definitely, you know, they're raised differently.
And you know, beloved, the unfortunate thing about that comment is that, see, Mike was not able to live in the United States at a time where the nigga mentality wasn't perfected. See, he's walking around in this day, in this generation, right? But what Mike doesn't know is that the nigga mentality is less than 100 years old. The devils that got together, the three-headed monster, to make the nigga, they didn't fully get the final product like they wanted to until, I want to say, maybe the 70s and the 80s and 90s. But before then, they were still in their laboratory. They were still in the inner city, which is the nigga making manufacturing centers. And inside of the center, they still had our people in the projects to work on, to labor, to put together the instruments, the right environment, the right temperature, the right ingredients to make a good nigga, right? If you think about it, beloved, inner city culture, it's invisible, it's not real. There's no real thing as inner city culture. But if you kind of watch how it works, though, beloved, inner city culture and street culture is the same thing. It's not two different things, it's the same thing, right? And the street culture was invented by the three-headed monster. Mix, what we call the Irish, kikes or small hats, what we call the Jews, or Dagos and Guineas, Wops, and what we call the Italians. These are the three ethnicities that got together and they created the street culture. And they did it in the northern inner cities of America first. Newark, New York City, Cincinnati, Detroit, Chicago, Cleveland, St. Louis. Then it went all the way to the west. Sacramento, Los Angeles, Long Beach, Oakland, etc., 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 right? If you look at the rules of old street culture, the rules of what they call gangster culture, it was one thing, right? Pretty basic. They call themselves wise guys, and they didn't talk to police, and they didn't believe in stealing from the family, and they didn't believe in disrespecting one another, and they kept their personal life personal. So you didn't fool around with a wise guy's wife. You didn't fool around with a wise guy's girlfriend. You didn't fool around with a wise guy's daughter. They just had like simple rules in their community of niggerdom, because, beloved, the first niggas of America was indeed the Italians, the Irish, and the Jews, right? And again, this process all takes place in the inner city. And it was something called the underworld in which they got together and invented, right? For the means of prostitution, bootleg liquor, running gambling houses, running numbers, running card games, brothels. If it was illegal, you name it, they did it. And these were the originators of what we call gangs in America, right? While they're creating the gangs in the inner cities of America, our people primarily is in the South, tucked away. In the fields, working, making nothing or little or nothing. But our original nature was that of love and righteousness because we followed the ways of mama and them. We did it just like mama and daddy said we was going to do it, right? Then the economy of this country began to grow, expand. Money is being dished out everywhere. And there was more money, it seemed like, when mama and them looked at it, it seemed like it was more money in the Americas up north and in the Northeast than it was in the South. Because there were two types of money. There was that industrial money that you could make legally. But even if you couldn't do that, that undercurrent of the underworld, which was created and controlled by the Irish, the Jews, and the Italians, there was another way to get money, right? But we seen opportunity. So mama and them told us to go from the South to the North to have a better life. So when our people began to leave the South and go into the North, we didn't know that the devil had a plan for us. You know, mama and them sent us up here so we can have a better life and, you know, we can prosper and we can become industrious and we had dreams and goals and ideas. We just didn't know that the three-headed devil had a plan for us. The mix, the kikes, and the guineas got together and said, let us make niggas after our image and after our likeness. When we got to Newark, we wasn't able to go right into the cities, many of us. When we got to Detroit and Chicago and Cleveland, we wasn't able to fully enjoy these cities when we got there. To go to the north side and the west side and the south side and the east side, many of us had a starting point. And that starting point was called housing units, right? But the devil, he didn't call them housing units. He called them projects, right? But the funny thing, beloved, we lived in the projects, but we didn't know that we indeed was the projects. And the projects was the starting point for many of us, which is actually a smaller laboratory in which the three-headed monster can come amongst us and create the nigga mentality. We didn't have it when we came from the South. We didn't have it. We learned this behavior in the housing projects. We learned the nigga mentality, right? If you kind of look at the behavior pattern of our people, we didn't pick up many of the stuff that we do and we call ourselves in love with until we come out of the housing projects. And then once we left the housing projects and we was able to go to the west side of the city or the north side, the south side of the city, or the east side of the cities that we belong to, historically that process became and called white flight, because the citizens of the Irish and the Italians and the small hats and the Polacks that wasn't into illegal activity, they can see, though, beloved, that we was infected by the devils of their people. And we just had to look. They can see it. And again, they called that white flight. They gave us the neighborhoods and they moved out of fear that our people would become criminals. that we become thieves, robbers, rapists, murderers, etc. But how did they know that, beloved? Everything wasn't a stereotype. They knew we was from the South. We was a peaceable people. But the citizens of these cities, they knew they've been around the worst from amongst us. They knew this, beloved, and they got away from us because they predicted this is what we're going to be, and this is what we became because we was made niggas first in the smaller laboratories, which is called the projects, right? And then once we became fully minded nigga mentality people while being in the Cabrini Green projects, the Brewster projects, the Marcy housing projects, the Robert Taylor Homes projects, Queensbridge housing projects, that devil perfected it, beloved. And what he did, he took many of that idea or that blueprint back down south, and he made the Magnolia projects, the Callio projects, the Orange Grove housing projects. He started to put projects all over the South because now he's on a full-fledged mission to make niggas. Now these projects is all inside of the inner city. And once you become that good nigga in the projects, you take that mentality out the projects and you put it on the west side. You put it on the south side. You put it on the east side. You put it on the west side. And now, beloved, you walk around with the nigga mentality, and your master of that nigga mentality or that street mentality is the devil himself, beloved. This is what's going on in the inner cities of America. The inner cities of America have become the nigga making manufacturing centers of America because you're his project. So when I hear our people that beat their chest and they say, look, we don't go by the snitch code. There ain't no snitching over here. We keeping it real. Yeah, you keeping it real. You keeping it real guinea like. You keeping it real kike like. Yeah, you keeping it real Mick like. Because that's not your nature, beloved. We know mama and we know your nature. You come from a people of love, beloved. You the original gentleman of the planet. You are the original gentlewoman of the planet. People know who black folks is, but they stay away from you because you lost your soul. They know you not who you really was. They know that the nigga mentality is less than 100 years old. And in order to break that mentality, the nigga mentality that is, they know family unit breaks that code, breaks that spell, breaks that bond that you got with your master. Black man and black woman, you ain't no gangster. That ain't your nature. You got the guinea nature. That's his nature. That ain't your nature. That's what the mix do. That ain't what you do. You are loving people. But out of those, the three-headed monster, though, if we really had to talk and have some real talk, beloved, and I got to really sit you down and give you this G, that small hat is your biggest enemy. That's your biggest enemy because he got the television, right? So he got your eyes. He got the radio. So he got your ears. So he can perpetuate your image through the television and through the audio. And then he got you when you want to get right. See, he got you through religion because you got his religion. And you don't have yours. You got his. That small hat, he go play that game a little different because he got you on both sides of the fence. All three of these devils really got you on both sides of the fence because they're your masters. When you hear a brother say he stick to the code, you got to ask him, black man and black woman, what code you stick? What code you stick to? Enlighten us. If we talking about he stick to the street code, he is identifying himself as he's the devil's lieutenant. He's the white man's lieutenant in person, in brown face. He got his ways, his nature, his thought patterns, and he's going to hold to this street code more than what you taught, more than what mama and them taught him in the South. Meaning he's going to be a bigger enemy to our people than anybody because he's going to uphold the street code. And the street code is nothing but steal, kill, and destroy. It's destruction. But he didn't learn this destruction on his own. He was taught that in the laboratory in the project housings of America. But again, beloved, We stayed in the project housing and we didn't know we was the project. And then once we fully got this nigga mentality, if you look around the wilderness of North America, the devil is going back to cover his tracks to these southern inner city projects, these Midwest, East Coast, and West Coast inner city projects. He's tearing the projects down now. He's trying to clear his tracks. The projects that used to be there 15, 20 years ago, he putting the bulldozer down. He don't need it no more. His work is, you're the nigga now. His whatever he set out to do, he's got it because he don't need the laboratory no more. The nigga making mentality is on autopilot. But who's keeping it on autopilot? The small hat. The small hat, because he's going to put it through. The small hat said, listen, instead of us building these buildings and having these units all over the place, I got a better way that we can teach these powerful people to be niggas. All I got to do is show them imagery on the television. Imagery through the music. Imagery through religion. See, that guy, he's different, beloved. You stand next to that guy, you think that guy's your friend. That guy's really not your friend. Because to him, you're the Hamite. And I can break that down, but maybe that's a different story for a different day. But we're going to keep it just going to be plain talk right now, beloved. This is how, beloved, check this out. We're talking about the inner city of America. Let's say inner cities, right? Inner cities of America, right? We're going to keep it plural. And again, on Real Black Consciousness Forum podcast, beloved, we say that the inner cities of America is the nigga making manufacturing centers of this country, right? Started up north, and then they started creating smaller laboratories in the south. They call them projects, but the projects was all over the country. But it's interesting how they, see, back in the day, when our people was in Los Angeles and they was calling themselves, what they still do, the Bloods and Crips thing. In order for somebody to be a Blood and Crip in the South, that means a few brothers had to really get and do some traveling, leave from Los Angeles, go to Georgia and teach some smaller groups of neighborhoods how to be Bloods and how to be Crips and all of this and all of that. That takes a little while to do that, right? But that small hat, he's slick. You ain't got to make that trip no more. He can just put it on the television and he can teach our people in Georgia and Tennessee because they got Crips and Bloods down in the South now. You got brothers thinking they moles down south. They moles, they vice lords, they folks up, folks down, and they got it just like you in Chicago, right? You would think, there's Crips in North Carolina. You're like, yo, Crips in North Carolina. How many niggas from LA came out here and really taught y'all something? No, they didn't have to go out there and teach them nothing because the small hat runs the video. He can put it on television and put it out. The small hat runs the hip hop industry. That's hip hop, Jew hop. He's the guy behind the curtain signing the deals, and he's not even he's not even shameful about it. I heard a small hat beloved over Def Jam, right? His name was Leo Cohen. He tells a story, right? He tells a story about how he was signing artists, right? And the small hats, they are inventors of an art called gangster rap. Yeah, they make you think it's some brothers that came out the hood and it was NWA and out in LA and they came out and no, it's not NWA. Go back behind the curtain. It was a small hat named Jerry Heller behind NWA, right? When Master P was coming out of the South and he went to the West Coast and he coming out and he made all these songs about being a real nigga and all this and all that. You look behind the curtain and you see who owns Priority Records. Yeah, I know you've seen Dr. Dre do his thing, but you go behind the curtain and you look and you see Jimmy Iovine there and it started to make sense. They made gangster rap. You did. See, when your family, let me just stop and pause and say this. See, when your people had the music industry, it wasn't like that. See, when Berry Gordy had it in Detroit, it wasn't like that, right? Black women was calling themselves the Supremes. Think about this. This is Jim Crow era, right? Segregation. You can't even go to the same lunch counter. You're from the projects. And when Berry Gordy had you, he didn't say y'all was bitches with attitudes, right? You wasn't twerking and He wasn't dropping it low. Barry Gordy put out people in suits and ties, and he put out women in long gowns. And even though that Diana Ross was from the projects of Detroit, one of the largest housing projects of Detroit, the Brewster projects, the brother called them the Supremes. So when they had to go down south doing the chitlin circuit, making their money, doing shows, performing, the devil had to put them on the bill and their names out right in the big light ahead of the theaters and said, the Supremes is performing tonight. And the devil had to look at our women and say, the Supremes. And then you had Stevie Wonder. And then you had Smokey Robinson. But see, that's when we had it. You know what I'm saying? When the small hat got it, nah, he didn't do that, right? Because it's a separation. When you had it, all you sung was love music. That's all you ever made, black man and black woman, love music. You just like having a good time and kicking it. You wasn't shooting and killing in the music. Listen, I want you to listen to me closely. If you wasn't singing gospel, right, you had something called the blues. And then you had something called rhythm and blues. Then you had something called jazz. You invented rock and roll. But when you had it, it was no violence. It was always love and fight oppression. And again, you double down on loving your people. When the small hat got around, no, it became violent. Going back to the story I was going to tell you, it's a small hat called Leo Cohen who took over Def Jam. And he has a story about how he signed DMX. And in so many words, what he said, it's like 30 rappers rapping in front of him. And he said DMX came and his mouth was all wired. And he just got through being in some type of act of violence. And he started talking gangster talk, low vibration talk. And the small hat seen him. And he said, this is the nigga I'm going to sign. And he gave him the biggest platform, even though DMX had a lot of substance abuse issues. He had parental issues. He was, he had a alter ego called Damien. The small hat looking down the line, seeing that this kind of guy was going to connect with you because there was a religious side to DMX. And all you got to do to kind of touch black folks is put somebody with a little religion in front of them. So our brother is no longer here. He's passed away. I'm not talking about DMX personally. We're going to talk about the art. And I'm going to say, what would make a small hat want to sign him? Right? A guy that talks about robbing, stealing. He shoots 100 niggas every album. He's really made music that was the soundtrack of the KKK, beloved, if we really talking artwork. But this is the image that the small hat had of you that he was going to put on his larger platforms. See, this is how he maneuvers this way. He put out NWA. We didn't put out NWA. Barry Gordy didn't put that out. You probably don't have a black executive on the top on the top of God's green earth that would have put out NWA. A group called Niggas with Attitudes? No, you get the small hat, he'd do it. He's gonna put you out there. They are in the business of making niggas. Leroy Cohen he said, man, his grandmama could have signed DMX. He's just seen something in him. I know what he's seen in him. I know what he's seen in him. Peace be upon the brother. He's no longer here. We're just talking about the art, right? I know what he's seen in him. And I always think to myself when I hear that small hat tell that story, I say, damn, I wonder what the other rappers was rapping about. Because if they went up there and they rapped about peace and harmony, they wasn't going to get no deal. And then that's what they teach the youth now. See, they started in my generation and it snowballed. So now if the youth want a record deal, you got to go up there and talk about selling dope. Or the small hat ain't going to give you no deal. You got to talk about how much you're going to bang, bang, shoot them up and kill. Or that small hat ain't got no deal for you. You're on your own. He tells our women, this is the way that you sell records. He keeps them half naked. He keeps them twerking, right? The women that's half naked all the time is on the small hat label. Craig Cowman run that at Atlantic Records. This is where Cardi B is at. This is where Suki with the good coochie is at, right? Think about that. An artist named Suki with the good coochie, a female black artist, is signed by a small hat. Megan Thee Stallion is signed by a small hat. But at the same time, if we do the numbers, it doesn't take a genius to see that Whitney Houston, peace be upon her, she was the highest selling female act. Her and Mariah Carey, and then you talk about groups, it's TLC, but they never got half naked and twerk nowhere. But then he come back and tell our young girls see sex sells. It's amazing how they are in the business of making niggas. They're in that business to keep the nigga mentality going on. It's easy to make niggas these days because he owns the video and he owns the audio. Those are his companies. Before some guys from LA can leave LA and go to Tennessee and Mississippi and Louisiana to teach other people of ours from the village to be Crips and Bloods, they made a movie back, I want to say in the 80s. It was called Colors. And then they start financing other movies like Menace to Society. And then they start financing stuff like Boys in the Hood. And all these movies where you have the image of the young black male, the shoot 'em up bang bang male. And every time they would make one of these movies, you would see the crime spike up because this is who black folks in the inner cities, the real nigga making centers of America, they thought that this is their true identity. They was connecting with the murder and the death and the kill that the small hats gave them, the mix and guineas gave them. So we're just smaller versions of mix, kikes, and guineas now. So look at us when we rap. We call ourselves Yo Gottis and Bossellini this, Bossellini that, and we always got some Guinea name and Capone and Noriega. You know what I'm saying? South Central Cartel and French Montana and Benny Siegel and Daz Dillinger, and man, the list goes on and on and on. And my brother down in Houston say his name is Scarface. We take on the personality, names, and spirits and energies of their worst kind. But we learned this in the nigga making manufacturing centers of America, beloved. Let us make nigga in our image and after our likeness. When you hear a black man in the South and something is not going his way, and you hear him shout out, nigga, I'm from Detroit. What is he really saying? Man, I'm from Chicago, nigga. Nigga, I'm from the South Side, nigga. What is he really saying? Nigga, I'm from Cleveland, nigga. He's yelling this out down south. Nigga, I'm from Cleveland. He's saying, beloved, I'm from one of the premier nigga making manufacturing centers of America. I'm violent. I kill in the drop of a hat. I don't play that shit. I kill niggas, man. I'm a nigga that's trained to kill other niggas, man. Don't you see it? I'm from one of the best centers. Goddamn, them Guineas trained me up good. Boy, them kikes gotta be ready for y'all, man. Don't play with me over here. Beloved, that's what he's saying. And I come as your brother and I say this, brother, listen to me, man. Hey, you got to stay away from niggas in the inner city. You got to avoid them like the plague. 16 to 29, they're violent. They full of poison. The three demons got their soul. They got that mixed spirit, man. You can't help them. Man, they got that kike spirit, man. You can't help them. Look at him. He thinks he's a Guinea. He got that Guinea spirit, beloved. You can't help him. He's a nigga now. How do you break the nigga mentality? How do you break the nigga spirit? Easy. You give him a family, man. Because that was the whole reason the projects was invented, to destroy the family. And all you got to do is take what the devil did to you and do it in reverse. That's what you got in the projects. Hey, man, the mama can... Check this out. I don't know if you guys know this. Back in the day, when you got the Cabrini Green and you got to the Brewster, you can have your husband and wife there. You can have a whole family. They made Good Times. It was an old show back in the day. Y'all guys may be young. There was a show called Good Times. They actually made that show in the Cabrini Green housing projects in Chicago. I've been there, right? I've been to that spot. Yo, check this out. When the plan wasn't working fast enough, they came back and they changed the laws around, and they said, you know what? You can't have your the man can't be there. Only the woman and kids can be there. Because what they was trying to do is get the right formula and ingredients and temperature to make that nigga mentality. See, they're scientists. They're just working on our people to get us just where they want us. So that was one of the ingredients. No father in the home. Working on our people in the north. They went down south and began to build housing projects. That's why the housing projects in the south is not older than the ones up north. The ones up north is old. They already ran down, dilapidated, they finna fall over. But the ones down south is like, they didn't start building them to the 70s. They didn't start building it to the 80s. They're fairly new housing projects. And to control the image, they played both sides. Because once they taught you the street culture, you left the projects, you went to the inner city, those three devils jumped on the other side and played law enforcement. When you see the Irish, you see the police department. When you see the Italian, you see the fire department. When you see the small hat, you see the very image of the judicial system. He runs all that. He's the guy that got to finance everything. He's going to always put the money up for something, right? And then they play both sides. So what they do is they create the street laws on one side, and then they play the law enforcement on the other side, and they keep you in the middle, right? And they use their leverage to control the nigga mentality because they invented it. So they know how to make it work, how to make a play on it, how to change it up. You know what I'm saying? How to add a new rule, how to take a new rule. I'm gonna tell you guys something that's interesting, right? I can so-called be in the street. You can so-called be in the street. Once you become a street nigga, see, that's his world. He controls that world. The three devils control that world. He don't belong to us no more. If a guy from the village is telling you and I that he's a street dude, that means he does not belong to us. He's controlled by the three devils and money, right? But this is how that works. Once you get in the street world, the devil can kill you off at any moment because that's his world, right? So much so that there can be two niggas and they can be friends for 30 years and then they can get in some trouble, right? One of the Irish devils, he's the foot soldier of law enforcement. But the small hat, he's in the back. He's the judges and he's the judges, he's the lawyers. He played a high role of the judicial system, right? Dig that. They created something called paperwork. And paperwork is saying, even though Peanut and Laquan been tight for 30 years, the Mick can pull Peanut in one room and then go to Laquan and say, look, I got a statement and Peanut is snitching on you and that will put the distrust between the two. But it works because it's their system. See, the street rules and all the street rules of America is controlled by what they call paperwork. Because, see, they playing both sides. The devils is playing both sides. On one side, they create the rule that nobody can snitch. And then the other rule, they create paperwork and say, see, he did snitch. But they can put that paperwork on anybody they get ready to because we're not going to do our due diligence and see if it's real or not. We just stuck in the middle. We don't really know. But you don't have your own brain. You're a nigga. Your brain belongs to him. See, that's what happened. When you sign up on a data line to be one of his, go in any of his armies, Air Force, you know what I'm saying, Marines, Navy, or the nigga mentality, military-minded niggas out here, the streets is ran by him. Paperwork that he makes controls your life. That's why it's so important if you're a rat or not. But who made the rule about no ratting? He did. But who made the rule that you are a rat? He did. Everything goes to him. The only way you can break this spirit is the family unit because he makes money off our dysfunction. When we wake up and see that, his empire is gone. He don't want you to be like mom and them because as long as you're righteous, it destroys his empire. He needs you dysfunctional. He can't have the family unit. This nigga made too many. I'm talking about the devil now. The devil made too many houses. He got to sell all these houses. He got to sell them to you because you don't have a family unit. That means you got to buy one of his houses. The baby mama got to buy the other house. Y'all need 2 washing machines, 2 dryers, 2 living room sets, 2 bedroom sets because y'all do not live together. He needs you dysfunctional. If you start to marry, you start to consolidate his economy. You're going to dry up all the money. If you're together, he don't need you together. He needs you being a nigga, beloved. And we don't want you niggas over here. We can't use you already. You ain't no good for us. But we know your heart. We know you can be reformed. When you come on Real Black Consciousness Forum podcast and we start talking about marriage, that is a revolutionary act, beloved. Yeah, I know some of y'all want to get up here and talk about history and, you want your reparations check. The brother from California, right? Tariq Nasheed, he got all our people talking about reparations check, right? And I like Tariq. He don't say nothing about them Jews, though. He make movies. He in bed with the small hat. The kike is his best friend over there. He talk about white supremacy all the time. He gonna keep talking about white supremacy because it's kind of like that's the politically correct word. No, it's not white supremacy. You say nigga, right? Well, you're gonna have to say kike too. Say small hat too. Yeah, don't say Irish, say Mick. You know what I'm saying? Don't give all these other folks all this kind of respect, and then you get to your people, you just boss up. Oh man, these niggas need to these niggas need to get their shit together. These wops and guineas need to get their shit together too. Keep it 100, right? But maybe that's a different story for a different day. A lot of our organizations that's so-called black, small hand got it anyway, beloved. They funded everything. They funded all. They play both. They play both sides of the fence. But once you start becoming married, they can't play that fence no more because you're unified. You're unified, beloved. And we want our people to become married so we can have a stronger tribe, which will make a stronger community, in which we can get out of the games and dupes of the devil in the city, have a strong statehood and a stronger nation.
Right. It's filthy, man. You got the poor people crying out. You got a second to hear the words of the Lord?
Man, stop running from this word, man. Come hear this, man.
You got a second to hear the words of the Lord? Yeah, stand right here, Alex. Stand right here. What's your nationality, King? No, your nationality. Not what you believe in, your nationality.
Your bloodline, black.
You black. Okay. Do you know that you an Israelite according to the Bible?
Look at the chart, bro.
Yeah, look at the chart. You see yourself in that chart?
You the top one, Judah, African American. No, I'm the top. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
You Judah, right? You from the tribe of Judah. Now let me ask you something, man. Let me ask you a question, man. You think being from this mighty tribe, you can do what you want and walk out here as you please? Do you think that the Most High would give us humans an earth and we could just run ragged down here and do whatever we want? Nah, right? Right. So we gotta understand what the Most High requires of us. We gotta understand how to get back to the laws of the Most High.
That's what. Can I say something?
What's going on?
I'm strong.
You said we strong. We looking weak right now. I mean, of course we strong, but right now we looking weak. Right? What makes us strong? Serving the Lord. That's what makes us men. Right? Now let me ask you.
It's only 50%.
Let me ask you a question. Hold on. Let me ask you a question. How is it that we got to America?
From back in the day.
No, brother. How did we get to America? I'm not talking about what was going on in the time of segregation. Yeah, how did we come to this land? By way of ships. Was you taught about slavery?
I was, but I'm a little old. I forgot.
You forgot. So you know for a fact that your people came over here by way of slave ships, right?
Yeah, I need the right roads. Did you know that
Come
was
on, man. That brother bugged out.
I'm not talking about no soul.
Time.
You need to get on that, man. You need to get on that.
Time, brother.
All right, man.
Tell you yourself up. Look at that, man.
Yeah, tighten up, man.
No woman, no cry. No woman, no cry. Hey, little darling, don't shed no tear. No woman, no cry.
Is marriage for white people? That's the question being asked by an author of a new book. Is marriage for white people? How the African-American marriage decline affects everyone. It's got a lot of people talking right now. Stanford law professor Ralph Richard Banks says it's time for black women to, this is a quote, give up the good fight on marrying a black man. Here he is.
The way I think of that is that women have been asked to carry a great load. Black women shoulder a lot of the burden, in short, of black men's struggles. And I am asking women to put the burden down. Many women think that they're attracted to black men. They are attracted to black men. But attraction itself is complicated. And one of the things that I discovered in the course of writing this book is that there's a whole host of fears and desires and anxieties that animate black women's attraction to black men.
Okay, Banks recently wrote an article in the Wall Street Journal and said that 70% of black women aren't married. That's roughly true. Okay, so is it time for single, educated, and working black women to just forget the notion of marrying a black man and look outside their race? A new Gallup poll shows more and more people are receptive to the idea of interracial marriage. In 1968, the numbers were quite low for whites approving of interracial marriage. This is a Gallup poll from USA Today, but today those numbers skyrocketed for both blacks and whites. So does the author have a point? Is the black marriage nearly obsolete? Is the idea just for white people? Have a black couple here who said,
No woman, no cry.
In that last video, I had a lot to say about the war against men. Because it's such a huge issue, it was impossible to be as in-depth as needed in one video. I mean, that video by itself was too long. But in that video, as I was speaking to men as a whole, there actually needs to be some direct targeting and a message like this. Now listen, it is absolutely true that there is a war against men. Masculinity is in a great decline all across the board, regardless of race, nation, or creed. This goes without saying, and that's why the first video was very general. But in regards to this war against men, there is a group that has historically taken the most damage and has been attacked the most directly. There has been an all-out assault against the black men, especially in America. It has been an unspoken war that has been waged against us for many generations. And as a black man myself, it is something I cannot leave unchecked. Now, as I said in that last video, now, if you haven't watched that video, please watch that first before you watch this, because some things I say here is based on assuming the foundation was already laid from that first video. But again, in that first video, I spoke about these two latest movies that have come out. Women Warriors, proving they are just as strong as men or even stronger. We have Black Panther 2, where the trailer just showed women. If you remember in the first movie, the king was guarded by a female army. We have this other movie about other women warriors, where even in the clip, one of the women shows that she was stronger than a man. We even have the Biden administration silently working against black men in this country without saying an actual word that he's doing it. I mean, look at all of his appointments. He has promoted black women to high offices, and it seems one of the criteria they must have is that they're not married to black men.
Acutely aware that my presence at this podium represents a few firsts. I am a black, gay, immigrant woman.
There have been news articles about why more black women should marry white men. Most of our heroes in the black community, our actors, our singers, our rappers, athletes, social activists, etc., they all have been emasculated or are homosexual. There is no room for the traditional black man in society today. There is an all-out assault on black men that we aren't really able to bring up because people either want to reduce these feelings as either sexist, racist, homophobic, or all of it combined. In that last video, I went over the whole agenda and what us as men should be. But what needs to be done and said here is how we got here specifically in the black community. So I needed to tackle this in a specific video so that anyone that does not understand this can clearly gain more perspective, and our black men can understand that they have been attacked and emasculated in order to be conquered. You are conquered. Every aspect of our current black culture in America has been designed and created to present the world with a subdued black man, and it is very necessary that at this point you understand this. So we're going to talk about it. Let's begin. So let's go back in time so we can better understand where we are today. After slavery was abolished, blacks in America tried to establish lives for themselves. The period of the Great Migration was one of the largest movements of people in the United States history. Approximately 6 million black people moved from the American South to northern, midwestern, and western states roughly from 1910s until the 1970s. To escape racial violence and pursue economic and educational opportunities, black Southerners began to migrate all over the country. The first Great Migration in 1910 to 1940 had black Southerners relocate to northern and midwestern cities, including New York, Chicago, Detroit, and Pittsburgh. Now, what's important to understand is that during these times, the black family was statistically strong. The men brought their families around the country, seeking opportunities for themselves so they can support their families. Though they dealt with a great deal of racism and oppression, those that had families held those families intact. According to the United States Census Bureau data, in 1910, black children raised in two-parent households was at 72.5%, and only 13% were raised by mothers only. For contrast, white children raised in two-parent households was almost at 90%, and only 5% of the households were raised by single mothers. There's an obvious gap there, I know, but not as big as the gap that we'll see. If you follow these statistics through time, through the Great Depression and the first Great Migration, the percentages still held up. We are talking about 30 years of strong families raised by both parents, both mom and dad, in the home. So for me, we're going back about 3 generations to my great-grandparents, and for the most part, the black homes and families were still intact. Now, this is where I want you to pay attention. In the 1960s, right before the Civil Rights Act, the percentages started to shift. The homes of black children raised by both parents dropped by 5% to 67.7%, and black children raised by single mothers raised 5% to 18.2%. Now, in white households in the 1960s, their families got stronger. The two-parent household was now above 91%, and still only 5% of households were raised by a single mother. We will go over why, but just stay with these statistics, because over the next 20 years, we will see the biggest shift in the black family. In the 1980s, during the biggest point of inflation in the United States, when we had a major recession, the black family collapsed. The homes of black children raised by both parents dropped by 20% to 47.1%, and black children raised by single mothers raised almost 20% to 37.3%. Now, to gain more understanding and understand that these trends were based on factors outside of the family, particularly economics, just understand that the strong white families also saw a decline. Their two-parent household declined 7% to 84%, and the percentage of households raised by single mothers grew by 6% to 11.7%. So, I give you a lot of numbers, but the picture needed to be painted for you. By the 1980s, the homes in the black community that had single mothers raising them represented almost 40% of the community. In 20 years, 20% of black men were removed from the black households. Now, let me ask you, do you really think it was solely because our parents and grandparents were deadbeats? No, they were attacked. The system that this country was built upon was created to assimilate black people in the country while making sure that black men never gained ground or dominance. The Great Migration was used to assimilate black people around the country, promising opportunities and providing them. By the mid-1960s, half of all blacks had moved into the middle class. But by this time, that progress seemed to be stalling. The rise in black income relative to that of whites was steady throughout the 50s. But after the Civil Rights Act, this relativity was halting fast. The reason for father's absence in the black home ranged from the existence of welfare regulation that forced the father out of the home, a man's inability to secure gainful employment to support his family.
Struggling with a sore throat, the former governor criticized the Carter administration for fighting inflation with unemployment, especially black unemployment.
What are you going to do for us?
I'm trying to tell you. I am trying to tell you that I know now there is no program or promise that a president can make that the federal government can come in and wave a wand and do this.
There was tensions in the male-female relationship as feminism began to rise, and the fact that a majority of black children were beginning to be born out of wedlock.
Raise your hand if you're married. None of you are married. Raise your hand if you would like to be married to your baby's father. One. The rest of you who don't plan to get married, why don't you plan to get married? I'd like to know that.
You already have your child to think about, and then a whole family to care for. You know, it's a lot of responsibility, and then you don't want the commitments.
I wouldn't want no man holding me down because I think I can make it as a single parent.
But don't you think you might need help in raising that baby from a man?
Not really. I didn't have a father. My father wasn't in the home, so, you know, it really, male figures are not substantially important in the family.
Now that last factor was one of the biggest challenges for black men. In a world that was crippling him, the young black man wanted to prove his manhood by creating a child. But American society denied him the economic resources to support that child. Lack of economic opportunities led to poverty in the black community. You see, where there is poverty and people struggling to survive, it spurs violence and crime. Many black men returned to crime as that was their only opportunity. The movie Dead Presidents depicted as well. When the young brother did his thing in the war and came back to no opportunities, he tried as hard as he could, but he was not able to provide for his family. But a pimp in the neighborhood was able to provide because he wasn't dependent on the system. So that brother Lorenz Tate saw that, and so he decided that he was going to go into crime, and it didn't work out for him. With limited opportunities, black men resorted to crime. And though white-collar crime back then was estimated to cost society over $100 billion a year, compared to the $2.5 billion from street crimes, the prisons were occupied largely by lower-income black Americans. During the 70s, whites were jailed at a rate of 43.5 per 100,000, while blacks were imprisoned 367.5 per 100,000. The sentences of blacks averaged 20% longer than whites. Now check this. During the 1970s, the unemployment rate for blacks increased dramatically, but so did the prison population. There was a direct correlation. Lack of economic opportunities and extreme poverty led black men to desperation and crime. I mean, today, where marijuana is able to be smoked freely all throughout this country, I was in New York and I saw people smoking weed in front of cops. It was crazy. But back then, people's whole lives were being ruined for an ounce of weed. Those laws back then were put in place for a purpose. Of all new employees entering the private industry between 1974 and 1977, 53% were white women, 26% were white men, 5% were black women, and black men experienced no net gain in their numbers, which is why they needed laws like affirmative action. I really can go in deep with all those statistics during that period. I'm just really trying to paint a picture. What happened to the black man in America was not more about the lack of desire of the black man or his laziness, but lack of opportunities and them trying to find a place in a society that did not want them. The system was not created for black men, and at no time did it ever want to see the thriving of black men unless it filled the stereotypes that it desired. Not to mention that if they were in poverty and sought after welfare, the welfare programs would not assist women who had men in the house. These were called man-in-the-house rules, and they sought to enforce social norms about who was morally deserving of welfare. That's how they say it.
We will tighten welfare and give more attention to outside sources of income when determining the amount of welfare an individual is allowed.
Mom, the social worker's here. Honey, get rid of the TV and hide.
Specifically, the rules prevented adult males from residing with mothers and children who received assistance. And so it was more beneficial for a mother to not be married and a man not to live in their home than for a family to be together. Poverty and lack of economic opportunity strongly plagued the black community, specifically with black men. So our black families by the 1980s were more than 50% fatherless. Black men had a high unemployment rate and lack of opportunities, and this was created by the system.
In the black communities of cities like Los Angeles, it's hard to imagine the situation could deteriorate further. The unemployment rate among black adults is double the average and climbing. In many places, desperation has turned to hopelessness.
Now, we by default tend to simply blame the white man for this, but this was much deeper than just blaming white people. Who we were before our ancestors were taken as slaves has been hidden from us. And the hatred and oppression that we went through was told to be solely for the color of our skin. But you must understand it was much deeper than that. This oppression and hatred was very much spiritual, and blaming white people doesn't help you understand what was going on. It only helps keep you trapped in the system's way of thought and trapped in their system. The system was created by Satanists who were strongly against black men who descended from slavery. This bloodline is hated. We were cursed, and by consequence, our people were oppressed. This is too deep to explain in this video, but this was the enemy. It should not be a blanket scapegoat of white people. This doesn't discount the fact that many in the white community were moved through spiritual hatred.
They're very close to the Levittown norm, except in one respect. William Myers Jr. and his family are Negroes in an all-white community.
But the whole trouble with this integration business is that in the end, it probably will end up with mixing socially. And you will have, well, I think their aim is mixed marriages and becoming equal with the whites. We have our home here, and if the colored move in and run real estate values down, there are a lot of us, the GIs particularly, who are going to be more or less stuck with their homes.
The point I'm making is black men were products of their environments and were being emasculated. And they were no longer taking responsibility in dealing with the circumstances, but they became victims of their circumstances. And when men tried to create something outside of the system, this was quickly squashed and suppressed. It was very difficult for the black man during these times, and we cannot point fingers at them. These were highly oppressive and deceptive times. So let's keep going. Now we're in the 80s, and the system is still the enemy. But you know what happened? The system already knew what they were doing, and they decided now they could really recreate the black man. There was no real influence in the black community, in the black homes, and our real heroes were corrupted, whether they were in the church, abandoning the Bible, preaching a social gospel, whether they were in the streets pushing drugs, being paid to destroy their communities from within, or they were already controlled through organizations like Prince Hall Freemasonry and the Black Boule. The government placed guns and crack in our communities and allowed our communities to severely decline. Then from the rise of mass media, the system went into our neighborhoods and picked our enemies and made them our heroes. The birth of gangster rap and hip-hop culture began, and this was something that we really felt like it was our own. But because we didn't understand the system, we didn't know that these heroes that were being presented to us were just tools of the same system that we were against. They used our own people as a Trojan horse to overcome us. Black culture became hip-hop culture, and it created a sense of immaturity in our black men that we have yet to overcome. For black men, everyone that you may have placed as a hero, that you may have placed posters of them on your walls, you watched their videos, adapted to their style, brought their clothes, went to the parties they threw, studied their lyrics, laughed at their jokes, dressed like them, took on their values, said you were going to make dead presidents represent you as well. All of these so-called heroes were and are in fact your enemies. They don't care about you. They care about themselves. The reason why they were so easily recruited is because they were already proven to not care. That's why they were selling drugs to their own community. The same way they could sell crack in their own community, destroying our mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, and they felt no way about it, is the same way they feel no way about becoming a famous celebrity, paying millions by destroying the communities through the promotion of debauchery and filth. And guess what? We all ate it up. They were being made rich to destroy our communities from within, and we were cheering it on. Our fathers were no longer in the home, and these men became our role models. It was a geniusly executed sinister plan against us. And most of us men, still in our 40s, still can't shake it off from us. And to add to this, they emasculated these men and made them do ritual homosexual acts. This is a rite of passage in order to be in the system. It's why we have seen all of our prominent men in dresses. I really want to address what's going on. These black men who we made our role models and heroes are complete sellouts, and they damage you and I as black men, and it is our responsibility to protect the next generation. But we have not, and this younger generation is even worse than before. So now we have guys like Lil Nas X giving Satan a lap dance, or Russell Westbrook coming out with a clothing line wearing a dress. It's too much to mention. Black men in America have been conquered, and it's time that you hear it and understand it. You have been overcome and demasculated to a point where our sons no longer know what a man is any longer, and they are completely soft. The women are right now stronger than the men, which is why you are seeing movies about women warriors. The same system you thought you were rebelling against in hip-hop with NWA promoting aggression against the police, this same system that you thought you were rebelling against actually conquered you, and you celebrate the sellouts who they used. Yes, there is an agenda about emasculation, but it is us specifically as black men that this agenda has been targeted at the most, because it was our strength that they could not deal with. So understand what they did, and I will skim through it again briefly. After they gave us an illusion of freedom, they lured us into this system, gave us jobs and allowed us to get educations, promoted some of their controlled bourgeois Negroes, and placed them as our goals to ascend to. After that program set in our minds, they took away all those same opportunities. They promoted agendas that removed the black man out of the homes, allowing their school system and their entertainment to program and raise up our next generation. They then destroyed the communities from within by planting drugs and guns directly in our communities, and they marked our streets by placing Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in every city, not as a memorial for us, but as a marker for them to know where they are attacking specifically, and so that others know that this is a black neighborhood. I mean, I can go to any city in America, and if I want to find the hood, all I need to do is find the MLK Boulevards. That wasn't by accident. They set up laws that imprisoned more of our men and left the next generation fatherless and angry. They filled that void with homosexual sellouts who promoted a lifestyle and mentality that destroyed us from within, removing our values completely, having us disrespect our women. Pretty much everything that would have been right for us, they promoted the complete opposite, and made these men our heroes and the leaders of our society. And we're still celebrating them today, talking about their money and giving them props and all that other garbage. Now we're totally controlled and manipulated, and we have raised up a next generation of black men that doesn't even know what a black man should look like or be like. We now have men that are submissive to their women and do not leave their homes. Men that are scared to combat evil because they're scared of losing their fake black card. And what we see now is either women or gay black men taking our leadership roles. This is all an agenda that has been used against us, because while they diffused us and made sure we are not a threat to them, they have been provoking and manipulating us to use our energy to bring about the change they desire in this world. Black people in America have an extremely high influence on culture and trends and social justice, but they are just echoing the voice of their puppet masters. And this has started because you, Mr. Black Man, have been neutralized. You have been conquered. And you have been so imprisoned that you believe that the only answer is actually the biggest weapon used against us. Yahusha the Messiah is your only answer, and you reject him. Let me tell you why I made this video. The times ahead that are coming are about to be really bad. And every one of you that are under this mind control are going to be dragged into chaos, and your families will be victims just by consequence. If you do not wake up and understand who you are, why we were oppressed, and what our only answer is, you're going to fall. You must break generational curses that the men in your family have been plagued with and defeated by. You must do it. Don't worry about your dad or the other weak men around you. You must wake up and become what this world needs, what our women need, what our children need, what our community needs, and what our Creator, the Most High, requires. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. That's 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11. And I read that scripture because it's time for you to put away the childish things and the childish thoughts. You as a black man are being attacked, and there's not much you and I can do to change this trajectory. But we can make up for our mistakes and the mistakes of our parents and our grandparents, and so on. You must be a man who lives out life through strength and not through weakness. Watch, stand fast in the faith, be brave, be strong. Let all that you do be done with love. That's 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verses 13 and 14. Now let me tell you what I know. I imagine that many of you just probably said, man, he was doing good until he brought that religion stuff in. I mean, he's using the Bible. He's controlled. Let me tell you very clearly, I'm not one of these sellout pastors. If you understood what it was I was saying before I quoted a little scripture, humble yourself and then ask yourself, maybe there's something he knows deeper than what I know from the surface. Because here's some truth unedited for you. If you have a problem with the Bible, you have an identity problem, and you don't know who you are. You are mind-controlled and need to be woken up. This is truth unedited, and I'm not sugarcoating anything for you, because we simply don't have the time any longer. It's time for you to walk upright and be who Yah created us to be. You have been led by the ungodly, and like the prodigal son did, you need to come back home and submit to Yah. I want you to know and remember this. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the path of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of Yahuwah, and in his law he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth its fruit in its season, whose leaf also shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the shaft with which the wind drives away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For Yahuwah knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. That's Psalms chapter 1, verses 1 through 6. Within these last two videos, I put a lot out there, and there was so much more to say actually. But the things that needed to be said, Yah willing, I hope they were given and received by who it was intended for. Listen, I love you all, and I have only made this because I care for you. I care for your family, and I care for our community. I cannot watch any more of this provocation against us and not speak up on it. These movies really provoke me. And my own friends, they see all this, but they still dance around the answer and the solutions. These things needed to be said, and I hope that this resonated with you. And if you're already woken up and living as a true man of Yah, please share this with those you may know have fallen short. It is time to put the childish, false ways behind you and come to Yah in fullness of heart and spirit. Be a man worthy of respect and of honor, and please lead whoever Yah places in your path. You have been called, and the only question is, will you answer? Please say yes, and be ready. Be blessed. Hallelujah.
Shalom, shalom. What's going on? It's Brother Zephaniah, Brother Joseph. Another lesson. SLT, School of Truth, servants in the house of the Lord, together in God's eternal righteousness. Sith Lord Tiger. So, what's the lesson? Christ brought a spiritual aspect to the law. You just going by the law of Moses, you're not going to do nothing. You're not going to use that spiritual discernment. I run out of gas. Oh, I'm not getting no gas. It's 20 below. I'm just going to freeze in the car. Can't even turn no heat on or nothing. It's the Sabbath. I can't spend no money. I got caught up late at work. The sun went down. I ain't going to get no food. We just going to have to starve through the Sabbath. The babies, too. We just going to have to starve because, do that make sense? Somebody broke their leg. You got to take them to the hospital. Nah, I can't take you. It's the Sabbath. Can't get nobody to do no business with nobody on the Sabbath. On the Sabbath, you ain't supposed to even get nobody to do no work for you. No business. That's doing business if I got to take you to the hospital and them people's got to do some work. Nah, I can't take you. It's the Sabbath. You just going to have to hold your leg together until tomorrow. You know what I mean? You just going to have to scream and holler. I give you a few aspirins. I hope that hurt. Your bone hanging out your leg. Ain't no discernment in that. The law tell you don't have no cuttings in your flesh. Where's the discernment at if you break your leg and your bone pop out? Oh, no, you can't have no cuttings in your flesh, so you can't go to the doctor. They're going to have to cut you open and fix your bone and sew your leg back up. I ain't taking you. You going to have to try to make it on a bus. I ain't got no crutches, but I don't know. Find a stick, make a cane, and limp your way to the doctor because I ain't doing it. It's the Sabbath. Say the Sabbath was made for man. Christ came to add the common sense and spiritual aspect to the law. You're going strictly carnally by the law, you're going to be over-righteous. And it tell you, why be thou over-righteous? Why destroy thyself before thy time? No, you being over-righteous, you're not going to help your brother to go get his leg fixed. You being over-righteous. You destroying yourself because what you just did, you destroyed that friendship. Being an idiot. That's what I mean, man. And on that note, Shalom, Shalom. This brother Zephaniah, treasure, warrior, spirit for the Most High Yahweh, spiritual assassin for the Most High God, Yasha'Allah, Israel, wise warrior for the Most High Mighty One God of Israel, coming from Sith Lord Tiger, School of Truth, servants in the house of the Lord together in God's eternal righteousness, Sith Lord Tiger. And brother Joseph, read marvelously for the lesson. And Israel, you gotta have spiritual discernment. You can't just go carnally by the law. And you can't cherry pick scriptures. You gotta break this stuff down in context and meditate on deeper understandings of what was really going on in the chapter. Shalom. And brothers, you gotta meditate in the book. You can't just read it like a fiction novel and then thinking you know something. Shalom. And to the two brothers who videos I used, the one from the Black Conscious podcast and the brother from Truth Unedited. Shalom, brothers. For me using your material, it's only right to get a shout out. I hope you brothers be successful and get everything that you're looking for and prosper into the nation. Shalom, Kwam Yasha'Allah.